So this whole thing about the down payment for buying a business comes up quite a bit in my conversations with buyers. So what is an acceptable down payment that lenders and other parties will be comfortable with? Can it be gifted? Can it come from a HELOC? Can it come from your 401k or other retirement accounts? Questions like this are critical as you're trying to explore how to position yourself as a strong buyer. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about all the different ways and sources for down payments that are totally legit and acceptable that make you, position you as a strong buyer. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I am your host, Leo Landaverde, business broker and commercial lender, helping you buy and scale a profitable business. If you are a small business owner looking to diversify your wealth by buying a profitable business, or a W-2 employee sick and tired of the rat race, wanting to leave the rat race behind by becoming the CEO of your own company by purchasing a profitable business, you are in the right place. Please subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to hit the bell. You'll be notified every Thursday when new videos come out. So let's talk about all the acceptable sources for down payment when it comes to buying a business. Now, this question actually comes up quite a bit. Can the down payment be gifted to you? Yes, it can. And the key is, if somebody gives you the money, they have to have some way of knowing that it's sitting on the bank account. It has to be seasoned for at least 2 months. And if needed, you need to show proof that it has been gifted to you. But yes, that's acceptable. Let's talk about some of the other acceptable ways that you can use it as a down payment. First and foremost, cash on hand. It could be either sitting on your checking account, it could be sitting on your savings account. Whatever way, you have to have proof that it's been sitting on your checking account and that it is your money that you're putting at play, or your savings account. Now, one thing that I want to make clear is that in the lending world, if you're going to leverage an SBA loan to buy your business, they don't call it a down payment. They call it an equity injection, which must be equal to at least 10% of the value of the business. So if you're buying $1 million business, which is the purchase price or the listed price, if you're looking on the online board and it's listed for $1 million, then the lender is going to see that, okay, well, I'm required to ask for 10%, which is $100,000. So I've said this in other videos before. If you want to know your purchasing power when you're buying a business, you take whatever money you want to deploy for your down payment or your equity injection, you divide that by 0.1, it's going to give you the highest purchase price you can get. So if you have $50,000 to devote to the purchase of a business, then $500,000 business will do for you, or 3 times $150,000 give and take in seller discretionary earnings. So before we go any farther, there are 3 types of money at play when you're talking about liquidity when you're buying a business. There is your equity injection, aka down payment. There is your post-closing liquidity, and then there's your working capital. Now, your working capital, it's a moving target. The working capital can be financed by the seller, and if you're buying a stock, it can be left with the actual company. If you're buying the asset, it can be worked out. So whatever is working capital for the 60, 90 days, if I'm representing the buyer, I want the seller to be able to provide some of that working capital, and everything is negotiable. And the post-closing liquidity is you do not want to empty your checking accounts and all your cash so you can buy a business and they have nothing to fall behind. So those are the 3 types of money buckets that we're talking about. But the one that we're actually specifically diving into is the equity injection, which is the down payment. So cash on hand, it's first and foremost. That would be number 1. Number 2, you can actually do a liquidation of cash equivalents and stocks. You know, cash and cash equivalents, right? What are cash equivalents? It could be a money market account. It could be stocks, right? Anything that can be readily converted to cash. If you have a note, somebody owes you money, you have a note receivable, and that can be converted into cash. Absolutely. Anything that can be converted into cash right away is a cash equivalent. Certainly, if you have stock of a publicly traded company and you just call your stockbroker, and then you can have that converted to cash, whatever it can be converted to cash, it has to be sitting converted to cash, and you have to be able to show the trail of that cash conversion, the cash equivalent conversion, and it makes its way from account to account to account. And finally, whatever account is going to be the one used for the seasoning of your equity injection. Retirement accounts. We're talking about IRAs, individual retirement accounts, solo Ks, 401ks, and there is a concept called rollover for business startups. Recently, I attended a webinar by one of our vendors in our business brokerage who actually specializes in what we call ROBS, rollover for business startups, and it's possible to fund a C corporation. You can actually roll over some of the funds that are sitting on your 401k, deploy them into a legal entity, must be a C corporation. Basically, you're funding the equity injection from your retirement account into this legal entity that is going to be using it to purchase the business. Now, regardless of what where the cash is coming from, really ultimately what is buying the business is a legal entity that you're going to be using to house the assets that you're buying from the seller. So that's sort of a way to fund your equity injection. HELOC, right? A home equity line of credit. One thing I should say about home equity lines of credit is that if you own a property and you have a rental property, and obviously you're going to keep track of all of those in your personal financial statement because everything must be disclosed, which you would want to because the higher the net worth, the better, right? So if you're going to pull out if you're thinking about buying a business and you want to leverage some of the equity in your home, might as well start doing that now. Interest rates going up, this fluidity, and the last I heard is that this has become a buyer's market for real estate. But it doesn't matter because you're not selling your home, you're actually getting a second or a home equity line of credit right behind your first mortgage. If you're going to do that, get it done, get it underway, because once you actually apply for lending to fund the business purchase, you're not going to be able to touch your HELOC or be able to get a HELOC while you're doing that. Get that in place now. So that's something that I was strongly, just because it may take 30, 60, 90 days to get that done. It always takes longer than you think. It always, I was buying a rent. Do you need help with buying a business? I am sure that if you have questions, I have answers. If you've been following my channel for a while, that's all I talk about is helping you buy and scale a profitable business. So if you have questions, let's get into a complimentary Zoom call so I can answer those specific questions for you. All you have to do is reach out to me. You can either drop me a comment below and we'll exchange information, or you can send me an email directly. My email address is at the description section of this video down below. Look for it, shoot me an email, and I'll respond within 24 hours and we'll set up an appointment. Let's do business together. So property not too long ago, about a year ago, and we had to wait for 6 weeks for the appraiser to be available so they could appraise the property that we're buying. So just so you know, everything takes longer than you think. So we talked about HELOCs, retirement, liquidity, cash equivalents, cash on hand. Partners and investors is what's next. So that'll be number 5, partners and investors. Now, okay, here's one of those cases that say you found a gold mine of a business that is just, say you found an off-market deal and you're friendly, you're having great conversations with the seller is looking to retire, you have earned the seller's trust, and you understand the industry, you understand that he probably needs to, for whatever reason, disability, relocation, retirement, whatever the reason, as long as it's a valid reason, he wants to sell, and you have keen eye for understanding the numbers, and he's willing to share some of those financial numbers for you, and you realize that he's pocketing about $300,000 a year. You haven't quite come up with a purchase price, but he says he'll be happy if you can clear $1 million. So you reason that at 300,000 times 3 puts you at 900,000. That within the ballpark of a 3 times cash flow. That you find out that the tax returns may be there to support that kind of cash flow, which we know it's going to be key if you want to get that financed. yet you don't have $100,000 because, if you were to leverage a 90% loan to value on the business that you purchased, you're going to need $100,000 plus potential working capital and post-closing liquidity. All of that can be taken care of by having a couple of partners. Maybe one partner you talk to, one of your network. This is how you really get creative. So you say you have a network of people, that high net worth individuals that you befriend or you work with, and somebody who wants to go in with a deal with you. And a lot of them are very seasoned and savvy investors. They're not going to put themselves in a situation in which they're giving you the down payment, say, the $100,000, and then, you negotiate whatever you think is favorable to, what is it worth to you that they're giving you the down payment? You put in basically your management experience, but not the cash. Is it worth 15%, 20%, 30%? That is between you and your investor to decide. But for the sake of when a bank gets involved, anybody who owns 20% or more on the new entity will have to personally guarantee a loan. That doesn't matter whether it is a SBA loan or a non-SBA loan from a commercial bank, non-SBA. You will need to, everybody's gonna, with 20% or more, is gonna have to personally guarantee. Now, what happens if this is a seller carry? Say you wanna bypass the banks and you got an investor who wants to give you 40% of the purchase price, so you now have $400,000, and then the seller gets to carry the other 60% on a 60%, 60-40 seller carry. In that situation, which is not going to be personal guarantees involved, the seller will put a lien against the assets, but you don't have to be personally involved. Then you really come out of zero. There's no bank scrutiny. You come out zero out of pocket, 40% from the investor and 60% from the seller. You're off to the races. Now, technically, in that particular case, it will be clear cut that the $400,000 on $1 million investment, it truly is 40%. Not a controlling interest, but 40% ownership. You still have the 60% ownership, which is a controlling interest in this new entity that may work for you. Just gotta get creative. You need to understand what you're looking at. First and foremost, everything can be cured if you have the right deal to look at, because if you have the right deal to look at, the investors will come. Last but not least, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can actually go 0% down. That as your equity injection. And the last one, which does happen, and which I've seen it happen, is somebody who owns a business with a strong balance sheet. It's a current business owner who wants to diversify their wealth, who I talked about at the beginning of my videos, who wants to buy a business, whether it's in the same industry or an industry or 1 degree away from the industry that they're currently in. They just want to diversify their wealth. They want to buy a competitor or a vendor or whoever. They have a strong balance sheet. Then the lender may look at the balance sheet and the things that I'll be looking at if I'm looking at what does a strong balance sheet look like? To me, it's a situation in which you have probably twice current assets over current liabilities. If your current ratio is 2/1, that's pretty strong. If your debt to equity ratio is 1-to-1, so you have you're allowed to have under lending guidelines up to $2.50 or $2.50 of debt against every dollar of equity. So if you're less than that, you have a stronger balance sheet. What if your balance sheet has no liabilities and all assets equals equity? If you have trust me, if you have a business that has been making money year over year and you have money in your bank accounts and you have AR, strong AR, quality of earnings, strong tax returns, strong management experience, you just walk the walk and talk the talk, you probably, any lender is gonna wanna see, once they see your stuff, they're gonna realize, hey, this guy has a FICO of 740, strong balance sheet, strong operator. This is no risk, right? This is virtually no risk. I don't need your money. You don't need to put any money down. And if you actually couple with the fact that you're actually buying another business that has a strong balance sheet, that's what it is. Think about it. From a lender's perspective, all that the equity injection is telling the lender is that, or the seller for seller carry, is that you have skin in the game. If you really believe in the business that you're buying, you will put money down because you got to lead by example. So if the lender is willing to put up to 90% and you're not willing to put up 10%, then do you really believe in what you're doing? And if you don't believe in what you're doing, you should probably be buying it, and then the lender's gonna see right through that anyway. So that's kind of my take on down payments, and more videos to come, guys. Thank you so much for watching. By the time I'm giving away my cash flow calculator, the last time I counted, has been downloaded over 2,000 times. This is resonating with you guys, because what it allows you to do is you take the guesswork out of figuring out how much cash flow you're actually buying. You take the cash flow from an existing business minus the debt that you're gonna be servicing to buy the business minus your down payment, gives you your free cash flow, what is yours to keep at the end of each month. It's yours to keep. All you have to do is download it at the description section of this video, and I hope you get to benefit from it like many have.